Welcome to Fort Worth, Texas. This is the GSA Region 7 Customer and Stakeholder Engagement Business Development Service Introductory Session. The purpose of our time today is to help you formulate the fundamental parts of your strategic plan for marketing and selling your GSA category contract solutions. I'm Steve Bartley. Over on the computer managing the slides is Chris Ann Nasvidomi.
Hey, everybody.
Let's move on. Next slide.
Okay. Well, here is our agenda for today's meeting. And the first thing we would just like to go over the purpose of what we're doing, and that is to market and help sell products from your contract. We have the legal parameters that we're working within, and we want to go through some of the benefits of using the schedules and the different selling points of how you can convey to the customer of why this is a benefit added to them. We also have some special contracting solutions that we want to discuss with you, as well as our vendor outreach and development program and how you play the important part in that role. And at the very end, we'd like to invite you to set up a one-on-one virtual meeting with us at a later date. So that is an overview of what we're planning.
All right, what you should see on this slide is general confusion related to marketing and selling. The reason it's in this format is because you're dealing with government contracting. Nothing usually makes sense in government contracting. So what you'll see here is a box, and the foundation here is procurement law, which is where all the headaches begin. Above that is regulations. Like you're probably familiar with the federal acquisition regulations. For those of you who have dealt with the Department of Defense, you probably run across the DFAR, which is the Defense Department's version of the FAR. And just for fun, every agency has written its own version of the FAR. GSA has even got one. Over to the left, you'll see agency policy. Every agency has its own set of policies that stem from the procurement laws that lead to the regulations, then get more constricted with the agency policies. Things like set aside for small business. Homeland Security, for example, everything they do, every contract action that Homeland Security proposes is set aside for a small business type of action. Same thing with Health and Human Services. And there's all kinds of various different ways that they write agency policy. Again, it starts with procurement law, leads to the FAR, and then their agency version of the FAR, and then their own agency policies. Over to the right, this varies with each administration. Executive orders come out of the president's office. In the middle of all this, you're going to see the traditional sales marketing box. Now, to simplify all of this, again, a lot of what Chris Ann and I do is help translate things that the government expect, things that the government does, the things that the government will do that don't always make sense to you. Big part of our role is to help translate that. So when you deal with marketing and sales, you're thinking usually from just a pure commercial marketing sales perspective. So the reason we cram this into this box is because the conventional wisdom in marketing and sales is to think outside the box. Well, for the sake of simplicity, outside the box thinking is danger zone. You don't want to venture outside of procurement law, regulation, policy, or executive order, because that's where you can get in trouble. So inside the box, the real challenge here in this confusion is to think creatively inside the government's box. And a big part of what Chris Ann and I will do with you in starting our relationships with you is taking away that stigma of, well, you're just a government vendor. You're just on GSA's approved vendor list. We don't want to keep you there. We want to advance. We want to start working with you one-on-one in developing our relationship so we can formulate an industry partnership with you. And that's going to be unique to everybody in this audience because we have 4 basic legacy schedules represented here today. The prefab building people don't do business the same way the guard service companies do, or the way the lab supply and equipment companies do, or the cleaning supply and chemical companies do. You're all different. And in perspective, it's just the 2 of us on our team who perform this service, but we're promoting over 2,400 of your contract solutions. So we dedicate as much time with you one-on-one as we possibly can. This is why we tell you in this introductory session, this is just the beginning of what we hope is going to be a long-term industry partnership with you. There's more to follow on that as we progress through this morning, today.
That's right. Speaking of confusion.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Speaking of confusion, the reason why this is not in ideal vacuum alphabetical or numerical orders, because government contracts rarely follow the step-by-step procedures the way we want them to. The primary parts of this we want you to see is the boxes for FAR Part 10 market research, and then the acquisition planning one to the second and third on the top, on the right and middle. It's because this is where you're allowed to perform your commercial functions with marketing and sales. Everything leading up, ideally, contract actions would start with a customer's funded requirement, and then they would reach out to you looking for contract solutions for product and services. And this is where you can show up, start working with them one-on-one, formulate your relationships with those customers, and helping them first clarify what their requirement's going to be. It often starts with their allocated budget, and they're given a certain dollar amount and said, here, go out and get this stuff, either product or service, whatever it is. Hopefully it's going to be something that's already scoped for something you offer commercially, and again, something you can put onto your GSA contract if it's not there already. So work with the customers. When you see those RFIs posted, sorts of sought notices, market surveys, reach out to those customers, because our typical turnaround time or a typical turnaround response to market research is anywhere from 2 to 3%. It's really bad. And Chris Ann and I hear it all the time from industry. We're not getting enough business against our contract. Well, here's your big opportunity for you to turn that around.
Please respond. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's emphasized that over and over again. Whether you see it on eBuy against one of your special item numbers, or you see something on beta.sam or GovWin or countless other procurement interfaces out there, be sure if it's something that you can offer commercially and possibly through your GSA contract, reach out and establish a relationship with that customer, because typically it's going to be a contract specialist, and behind that contract specialist is going to be a warranted contracting officer. So jump in at this point in the process when it's safe. Again, back to that last slide where the safe zone is inside that box, thinking creatively. When you see an RFI posted, call them, email them, and tell them, hey, I want to partner up with you to provide that solution, because you're the experts in what you do. We are not. Contracting officers, they just write contracts. You know what you do commercially. There's too many of you out there for them to possibly become experts, category managers of each of the things that you do at the subcategory level, whether it's IT or security, industrial products and services. There's 10 categories across the government we won't get into at this point. And then acquisition planning. This stage is when the contracting officer has not made a decision yet. Just imagine you're watching Wizard of Oz. There's a scarecrow in the cornfield pointing 2 different directions. Well, during this market research phase, this pre-solicitation phase, this pre-award phase, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do next. Do I use GSA, or do I go open market and write some IDIQ contract? Well, you can smile because you've already got an IDIQ contract, and that's one of your lead selling points. It's like we've already gone through that regulated FAR Part 15 process to get a GSA IDIQ contract to offer whatever is scoped for your products and services. Chris Ann can share a lot more about you with that.
That's right. That's right. We will go over that. Okay, so
after acquisition planning, it goes to an RFQ that's posted. Contracting, you put in your quotes. Contracting officer evaluates your quotes, whether it's lowest price or best value. They make the award decision. They issue the award. And then you're back in the safe zone again. Now you're at that post-award stage, whether you got that contract action award or not. And then that's when it's safe to re-engage that customer.
Okay, then the ever favorite contract closeout. And that's just additional steps that the contracting officer has to do with each of the procurements that they go through.
And this may be the time when you would also be prompted for, say, a CPARS action, where they will document past performance on past delivery or service performance. All right. We're not going to read all this to you, but there's a couple of things that are my favorites. First would be that streamlined acquisition process. The dollar threshold you'll see here is below 250K, simplified acquisition threshold. GSA strong area for the schedule category program is anywhere between 10,000 and 250,000. The reason is when you have a GSA contract like you do, customers are not required to post for competition when they know their budget and their proposed requirement is not going to exceed 250K. At a minimum, all they have to do is access GSA Advantage, go to eLibrary or do a product search on the Man Advantage website and look at 3 prices. It's called a 3-price review, and it's regulated by FAR 8.4, which is the regulated use of your GSA schedule category contract. And more to follow as we advance in our relationship. My other favorite here is the blanket purchase agreement. Anytime you see, for example, anytime you see a contract specialist posting on a survey, a market survey on beta.sam or GovWin, and they're proposing an IDIQ contract for, say, 5 years for whatever the product and service is, you find one in your efforts when you're sourcing, and it happens to be something that you could supply commercially and through your GSA contract, this is your opportunity when you see that survey to reach out to them and form that partnership, because one of your selling points in having that GSA contract is to sell a BPA to them, because it acts just like an IDIQ contract, except there's one of the features is that there's no obligation of taxpayer dollars. You know, they can establish that BPA with you, which is just virtually a handshake, because it can be canceled by either party at any time and without cause. So it's to your advantage to promote the idea of having customers migrate that open market spend over to GSA through a BPA action. Now, I'll give you an example. When I was writing contracts, I was in GSA's fire program. They had run low on the inventory cash and for fire helmets. And you've seen the news out on the West Coast where it's a life and death situation. So a fire helmet is very critical to the basic equipment in their bunker gear. And so when I was writing those contracts in the global supply program for forestry service, normally the routine was always to do a 5-year IDIQ or a requirements contract. Well, I just stumbled across a procedure manual called blanket purchase agreements, GSA schedules. So I started flipping through the pages and found that I might be able to save time and money for the customer if I proposed a BPA action. So I just started following it step by step, and it led me eventually to GSA Advantage, eLibrary, and I discovered that the fire helmets that Forestry Services needed were already on a GSA contract. So I started coordinating with the contracting officer in the schedule program. At this point, it was Legacy Schedule 84. And a few days later, they upgraded the specifications on the helmet based on Forestry Services' latest requirements, which changed a lot. But that's fine. We were able to mod the contract in just a few days. And so 3 months later, I awarded a 5-year contract, a 5-year BPA for fire helmets. Again, the emphasis here is 3 months. I was able to get it at a discounted rate through a GSA contract. It was set up for 5 years, just like I would had I written an IDIQ or a requirements contract. But now it took me literally 3 months, which would have taken me anywhere from 9 to 18 months to establish the same type of contract action had I gone the IDIQ or requirements contract route. The advantage to the industry partner at the time was that they could have canceled it at any time. If they didn't like it for whatever reason, without cause, they can just walk away from it. Same risk-free for the customer. They don't have to send us any obligated taxpayer dollars out of their budget, their allocated budget, to establish the BPA, because no obligation of funds takes place until they issue a purchase order against that BPA. So until that happens, it's no obligation of funds, and it's can cancel. Either party can cancel without cause at any time. Actually, typically we give them 30 days notice, but I've never seen it happen since 2003 when I started doing this. Anything else?
Okay. Well, I was just going to mention, like Steve had said in the beginning with that slide with the rules and regulations and then going through the procurement process, there is a lot that is involved with a contracting officer going out with procurement and even with that BPA. So anything that we can do to streamline it, like the BPA, like going to schedules so that they already have that fair and reasonable determination made. They don't have to post, make that socioeconomic, all those different things that they look at when they're going through the procurement. With your GSA contract, you're saving them all that time and the extra steps. So really, just in a nutshell, it is a streamlined process for them to get what they need quicker and at a better price. So that's, what we're here trying to promote. Okay, and I was going to go on. There are a few other special contracting solutions that are included with your contract that a lot of people are not familiar with. And one of the things you can do is a contractor teaming arrangement. And this will allow you to team up with another contractor to provide that total solution that the customer is looking for. So one of the examples we use, say you're looking on eBuy. They know that they're going to use a schedule solution, but you only have a portion of that solution. So instead of turning that opportunity away and saying, I can't quote on it, you can team up with one of our other contractors on all of the different programs and make that connection with them to provide that solution to the customer. That way, the customer is just dealing with one purchase order, one order. It's a very informal. Again, it's just the two contractors get together and set out the roles and responsibilities of each one. You still report your contract sales. The other contractor reports theirs. That's all separate. But to the customer, they're getting the total solution. And it doesn't matter to them that it came from 2 or 3 or 4 different contractors. It's just that one purchase order and they get what they need. So you can look on eLibrary and find out what contractor is offering whatever type of product you're looking for to team up with. Contact them. And that is another solution that is available to our customers. And it's an option that you have to use as well. We also have, it's fairly new, called order level materials. And those are for items that you did not know when the base contract was set up that you were going to need or that customers were going to ask for. So with the order level material SIN, and it has its own OLM SIN, the customer can request items that are not on contract, but yet it is considered on contract for that purchase order. So you would still report sales on it. It can only be 33% of the order or less. So it cannot be the main reason for the order. But it is for those things that maybe you just did not know, something to make it compatible with the system that they already have. If you find that over time, people continue to ask for that, at that point you would probably like to add it to your contract to make it easier, because the order level contracting officer will still have to determine that that OLM product is fair and reasonably priced. So there's a little bit more effort involved for the CO, but it is another way that they can get everything that they need with that one order by using the OLM SIN. And if that doesn't work out, we do have the option to do open market line items. And as far as you're concerned, if you are putting an open market item, something that is not on your contract, on that invoice, just be sure to designate it as an open market line item. You don't want to pay the IFF on it. And if you are going through a review, your annual review or anything, and the IOA sees that you have this purchase order, you want to make sure that it's clear that you didn't say that this was something that was on your contract. But that is another way. We're just trying to look at ways to get the total solution for our customers, so you can use these 3 different contracting avenues to provide that solution for them.
One more note about the open markets. A general rule of thumb, just keep that in mind when you're working with contracting officers. we don't normally, they don't normally allow open market lines to exceed 25% of the overall
That's right.
cost of that contract action. Because what happens normally is the real concern for them is the dollar threshold of that open market line. Because again, when you're promoting your GSA contract, you're operating under FAR Part 8.4, again, which is the regulated use of your GSA contract. When that open market line is going to exceed $10,000, for example, that is the micro purchase threshold. Now we've gone from a FAR 8.4 action for that line item, and it's now going to be shifted over to FAR 13, which has the difference here is under micro purchase, there are no competition requirements. They can, that contracting officer can just reach out to you for that open market line that you've quoted along with all those other GSA priced items, and treat it as inseparable because it's an integral part of your total solution and your quote. Once it exceeds $10,000, now they're forced to make another decision. Is it going to shift into a FAR Part 13 action for what's the regulated actions for open market lines above $10,000 up to $250K typically? Then they may have to post it as a separate requirement just for that one line. Another challenge they run into is, if I mentioned the word inseparable, if it truly is an inseparable part of your core solution, then hopefully you'll be dealing with creative contracting officers who are well-versed in writing either sole source or limited source justification actions. Again, another part of the regulated FAR 8.4 process for limited source and sole source just for light reading, FAR 8.405-6, if you want to look that up in your leisure time.
I'm sure they do.
Why not? All right, vendor outreach and development. This is the real reason we're introducing you to our service. This is 5 years in the making. We've been formulating this, started off really just as an ad hoc process, just based on demand. Whatever the customers were telling us across the government, these are the things we need from GSA contracts, or how do we use GSA contracts? What's available? Then we had the same from industry. Initially, our work had been focused on just identifying our customers and then just talking with them, getting feedback and regular input to figure out, what do we need to do in formulating a business development service model? And eventually it shifted around to a primary focus on working with industry, because there's so many more of you than there are just the two of us. And so a real key and integral part of what we do is, in establishing our partnership with you, is to leverage your sales forces out there. Because some of you are small companies, may have a few salespeople. Some of the larger ones will have hundreds and some thousands of salespeople all over the planet, because your customer base is our customer base. We're not limited to just Fort Worth because your contracts are managed in Fort Worth. We are worldwide. So you can see exponentially, there's 2,400 of you plus, and thousands more of government customers around the planet. So in sharing what's all the so-called secrets inside of the government honeycomb, we want to show you how it works. And I've said before, we provide an informal translation service to try to help you make sense out of the legal parameters of government contracting, procurement law, regulation, policy, and executive order. So this introductory session is to show you just the broad view of all the different parts of what we do, because some of you are at the beginning stages of your government contracting work. Some of you are somewhere in the middle. Some of you are well advanced and don't need the introductory help. You'll see as we go through this, each of these steps here, just what's next for you, what you can expect, what you can anticipate today, tomorrow, the weeks ahead, the quarters, the years ahead. And Chris Ann's going to get much more detailed and granular with you with those individual efforts.
That's right. So like Steve was saying, initially we were starting out with contracts that were newly awarded. and then maybe ones that are having troubles meeting that $25,000 sales criteria, reaching out to them. So that is still our focus, but we also want to expand it and do like today, like our industry days, to where we are talking with the contractors. You guys are interested and involved with the process and to learn more. And as far as getting out there, you have the branding recognition. People know you. If you can help us promote your schedule, it'd be so much more effective. So that's what we're doing, hoping that after today, I will be reaching out to you. You can definitely contact us to set up a one-on-one meeting virtually where we will personalize the session for what's happening with you at this point in time with your contract. You know, whether there are lots of different areas that you might want assistance, whether it's connecting you with some of our other resources, customer service directors, national account managers, and different, again, like the vehicle, different options that are available to you to help that customer and get that solution. So once we have these one-on-one meetings, and again, we want that to just be the starting point where we're developing a relationship. So at this point, we would like to maybe go to the next step where we could come out and see your location, whether it's your office or a warehouse or assemblies or what it is that you do, because that definitely helps give us an idea of what it is that you do and understanding your product.
It helps us to tour your distribution centers and your manufacturing plants, because getting a tangible feel for the products that you produce really gives us that added narrative. And we can, when we team our efforts, we provide you with that government voice when you're working with other government customers. But when we're not together, it's still, hey, I toured your plant, the distribution center, met with your sales and marketing people. We now have a real understanding. It's not just an understanding, but we can actually relate to what you're doing. And it helps us echo what you're selling and marketing as part of your strategic plans for marketing and sales.
Exactly. What makes you unique in moving those items. So then after that, we were hoping we would like to go with you on customer visits. And as Steve was mentioning, be that government voice there to answer maybe some of the specific questions that they have about GSA contracting. But we want to partner with you, that this is a way to increase sales and to increase your visibility and to therefore get the information out to the agencies and our other customers.
It does get tricky. It does get tricky because different parts of the government will tell you, no, I'm not allowed to work with industry. And, we hear this every day. And, I love referencing, DOD's memo that came out a year or two ago where, they dispelled all the myths about engaging industry, which is why we're so proactive in supporting our, industry solutions to DOD and government-wide customers, because we can't do this without you. And
Exactly.
Fortunately, DOD's the major player here. They figured it out, and across the government, we need your help one by one. Each of your salespeople, when they get out there, promote this. Yes, you're allowed to. Going back to that process slide we showed you a few slides ago, part of this process is regulated by FAR Part 10. It's market research. It's very open. You get in the, again, you want some light reading, go check it out. FAR Part 10, it regulates market research. It's very loose on what you're allowed to do. There are those danger zones, like we showed you in that one box. The safe zone is thinking creatively inside that regulated legal parameter box. As long as you stay inside that box and follow those steps carefully, you should be okay. And it's why we have to deal with this one-on-one. Some are more apprehensive than others, so just don't expect all of them to take the same approach that we do.
That's right. And that ends up with the main goal of all of us is customer opportunities. We want to get out there. That's right. Sell your products and services. That's exactly right. So we're hoping all this leads to that end goal.
Let's emphasize, our part of GSA is self-funded. If you're not generating that IFF with every time a customer uses your contract, that doesn't feed the acquisition fund. because that acquisition service fund actually keeps our lights on and pays our salaries. So we got to have you out there successfully doing this. That's why we have a vested interest in your success.
That's exactly right.
And our service is free. We're paid to do this we're already paid to do this. So don't think you owe us anything in this service.
Exactly. Okay.
All right, what's next?
Okay, so here again, I just want to bring up that one-on-one virtual meeting that we would like to set up with you to learn about your company, what it is that you're doing, and see if we can find ways that we can help you get in there in front of the customers. Like we said, we have those customer service directors, national account managers, the different contracting venues, and looking at your commercial website, seeing how you do business and how we might be able to just tweak a few things to make the difference in getting those sales that we're after. So here is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to either one of us, but I will be reaching out to you as well to see if we can set up these one-on-one calls. They usually take, we ask for about an hour of your time, and we'll go through just, step by step on how things are going and make recommendations and listen to you and see if we can get that end goal of generating more sales through your GSA contract.
Is that it? Well, thank you for your time. Let's go make some money.
Okay, and as a side note, I have been recording this. So if you would like to have this given to someone who was unable to attend today, we also have that. So we will be letting you know about this in our follow-up. Thank you, guys.